You know, back in the 80s and 90s, we knew what anime was, or Japanimation as we used to incorrectly call it. Whatever we called it, it wasn't always easy to come by. You used to hear about these great movies that were super violent, a lot of sex, crazy stories, and then there was that one kid or your cousin who would always be able to get a copy of one of these films from somewhere. And if you were really lucky, it would show up at your local video store. Today's movie is a perfect example of one of those films. It's got everything: great animation, graphic violence, sex, a great story, and for my teenage brain, this film was legendary. So let's talk about Ninja Scroll. Originally released in June of 1993 in Japan, Ninja Scroll made its US debut in 1995 with an official dub. This is when I first saw the film, and honestly, it's one of those movies that pretty much everyone saw or heard of by the end of 1995. The movie starts out with a quick introduction to our hero, Jubei, and right away, you find out this dude's nothing to play with, as he makes quick work of a few bandits. We're then taken to a small village that's seemingly been wiped out by an apparent plague. This plague is being investigated by the Koga Ninja, but their investigation doesn't get very far when they're wiped out in one of the coolest scenes in this movie. The only survivor of this massacre is Kagero, the clan's poison taster and a skilled ninja in her own right. The clan was wiped out by Tasai, one of the 8 devils of Kamon, who has the ability to turn his skin into stone. This scene is a true introduction for what you're really in store for in this film. Can't tell you how cool this shit was the first time I saw it. And the movie sets you up for a quick okie doke early on. You honestly think this dude is probably pretty important in this movie, but nope. Tasai dispatches him in glorious fashion. Tasai spares Kagero for his own purposes when he's interrupted by Jubei. He warns Jubei to leave, but Jubei refuses. He then turns to stone and threatens Jubei's life. Kagero, thinking quickly, stabs Tasai in the eye, and her and Jubei are able to escape. Not long after, Tasai tracks down Jubei for a little revenge. But in a pretty awesome fight, Jubei is able to defeat Tasai, not realizing that Kagero's skin is full of poison. And when Tasai was trying to, take advantage of Kagero, he inadvertently poisoned himself. And this is what gave Jubei the chance to kill Tasai. This is when Jubei unknowingly puts himself on a collision course with the supernatural assassin team, known as the 8 Devils of Kamon. Shortly after defeating Tasai, Jubei meets Dakuwan, a government spy disguised as a harmless old man. Dakuwan poisons Jubei and tells him he'll only get the antidote if he helps unravel a political conspiracy. At the center of it all, Gemma, Jubei's former commander, someone Jubei thought he killed, but Gemma has been resurrected with a terrifying new power, immortality. Gemma and the 8 Devils are working together to overthrow the shogunate using a plague as cover and a massive stolen shipment of gold. Jubei, Kagero, and Dakuwan are the only ones who can stop them. What follows is the core of Ninja Scroll, a series of intense battles where Jubei, Kagero, and Dakuwan face each of the 8 devils, each with their own unique, often grotesque abilities. There's Ben Asato, the seductive ninja who summons snakes from her body. Mushizo, a hunchback who unleashes swarms of killer wasps. Majuro, the blind swordsman whose hearing turns him into a deadly predator. And Shijima, a shadow ninja who has the ability to hide himself in the shadows and becomes a real issue for Kagero and Jubei. Each of these fights are memorable and play out like boss battles in a video game. Through this journey, Jubei and Kagero grow closer. However, Kagero's poisonous body means even a kiss would be fatal. At one point in the film, Dakuwan tells Kagero that the only cure for Jubei's poison is to sleep with her. She's honestly horrified by this, but her feelings for Jubei take over and she offers herself to him. Jubei refuses though, and continues his mission to kill Gemma. Everything culminates aboard a ship filled with molten gold, the stolen treasure Gemma needs for his uprising. Jubei confronts him in a brutal showdown surrounded by fire and chaos. But Gemma is immortal. He regenerates every wound. Jubei is able to win not with force, but with skill and cunning. He triggers an explosion that melts the gold, trapping Gemma under it as the ship sinks into the sea. With a final image of Gemma screaming as molten gold engulfs him, Jubei and Dakuwan are able to escape, But before the end, Jubei was able to kiss Kagero, which was just enough to reverse the poison in his body. So why did Ninja Scroll become such a defining moment in anime history? First, it was a gateway title. In the 90s, Western audiences were just discovering adult-oriented anime. Ninja Scroll, alongside Akira and Ghost in the Shell, helped break the myth that animation was only for children. It spread like wildfire through VHS rentals, anime clubs, and late-night screenings. Second, it introduced a global audience to a darker, more stylized version of the samurai ninja cinema. The director had a signature look, sharp character designs, kinetic action, and atmospheric detail. Third, it had controversial content, from violence to sexual themes. It all sparked debate, but also made it unforgettable. The For Adults label became part of its identity and its marketing. It felt dangerous and forbidden, the film your parents didn't want you to watch. And finally, Ninja Scroll opened the door for countless dark fantasy anime, Berserk, Vampire Hunter D, and Wicked City, and more. Its legacy isn't about sequels or franchises, it's about impact. For many people, Ninja Scroll was the first time anime felt powerful, stylish, and truly dangerous. Of course it was around before, of course it was violent anime before this. But Ninja Scroll seemed like a cultural moment. More than 30 years later, Ninja Scroll still stands as a bold, beautifully animated, and fiercely unapologetic piece of filmmaking. It didn't just entertain, it helped define an era. If you watched it back in the day, you probably remember exactly who handed you the tape, exactly how you felt seeing something like this for the first time. Anyway, that's my little talk about Ninja Scroll. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, share, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll be back real soon. Thanks for watching.
Your body. It seems to me that your body can't be as hard as rock all over, now can it?